Quiet on set. Picture is up. All right, roll sound.
Rolling.
Roll cameras.
Cam's rolling.
And 3, 2.
Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Hank's Think Tank. It's been a little while, but we're on the other side of the storm. Got Mark Hogan on my left.
Howdy, everybody.
How's it going, man?
Going really well. Glad to be back in the studio. Glad everybody's okay. We got power. We got lights.
Yeah, it was almost bad for a while. It took like 6 days to get the power turned back on here.
Right. We're back up and running. Hope you guys are too.
It was rough. No damage at the house or nothing?
No, I was out of power for about 8 hours.
Wow.
I'll take it, brother.
Yeah, there you go. All right, guys. Well, today we've got Kolton Purvis in, and he is an entrepreneur. He's also a life coach, and he's going to give us some ideas on how we can make things a little bit better and what his thoughts and views are on business in America. And just glad to have him aboard. Welcome aboard, Kolton. How's it going, man?
Going well. Thank you for having me, Hank. It's honestly a pleasure.
Yeah, good to see you.
Good to have you here.
So we had a little bit of a chat in the green room before we got started rolling, and I found a lot of what he said to be pretty interesting and pretty valuable. So what I thought I'd do is just give him an idea or give him an opportunity to give us a little bit about his history and how he's gotten from there to here. So go with it. Yeah.
I'd say even starting with, I know most people hear Kolton Purvis. It's like, that's two last names. Well, it is two last names. I didn't know my biological father until I was 11. And my other father, Jimmy Parham, he raised me, right from wrong, stand up, man, go to work, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, work till you retire, work a, blue collar job. And
sounds pretty American.
Very American,
Yeah.
I want to retire with a house on a hill. And that was the whole thing. And he had spanked me once in my whole life. I'd hit my sister and he pulled the truck over, and that's what it was. And then I asked my mom, I was like, Mom, she was going through a breakup. And I was like, I want Dad back in my life. And I'm thinking, Jimmy, I want Dad. That's my father that I've known. I have his last name. We have the same birthday, same eyes. So that's my father. And she said, well, son, sit down. I think it's time. And she said, Jimmy's not your biological father. This man Howard Purvis is. And I was like, what? She said, you have another brother and sister. And I ended up meeting him, and completely opposite. Entrepreneur, he always told me, he's like.
And you were only like 10 or 11 when you
Yes.
found that out.
And he was like.
You were impressionable at that time.
For sure. It was a real turning point in my life because, like I said, I was going to be a third-generation textile worker. I was going to work on the road. I was going to be my whole life. I was like, I want to be a stand-up man.
It's a tough job.
Right.
There's no way I'd want to be a textile. Not out there, with the thing on your head, out in the heat. No, forget it.
So Howard comes into my life, and he whooped me on the first, time he came over to the house. So this is how completely different sides of the spectrum they are.
Good to meet you.
Yeah.
Bend over.
Yeah. And,
sounds like my dad.
And he told me, he's like, you can never be the man working for the man, and always like, think of the bigger picture, get outside the box. He said, the American dream isn't the American dream, it's the American snare. And he's saying all this information I'd never heard in my life. And I'm like, what do you mean the American snare? Mm-hmm. He's like, they want you to get a house and get into debt, and then
get into debt, yeah.
Get cars and get into more debt, get a wife, have a kid, get into more where you can't get out of it, and you got to work this job, because that's what he had been through. And so he's just telling me this information. I'm like, oh my gosh, what?
Yeah, but debt is the American dream.
Right. For sure.
Yeah. Most people just don't know it.
It doesn't have to be.
Until it's too late.
Yeah.
You never really think of it until it's too late.
It starts out young, though, man. You get out of high school, the first thing I want you to do is go get a college loan.
Yep.
You're by the time you're out of college, you're $50,000 in debt.
Yep.
That's no way to start your life.
Yeah.
That's no way to start your career.
And it's a leaning post. You think, since I had this now, especially in our generation, since I have this degree now, I can go out there and get this really amazing job. And a lot of it's certifications, because once you get into the job, you may have a quick little end, but people that have certifications in that field of expertise are a lot more desirable to be hired.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I tell the young adults is whatever that you're going into doing, there's so much online. There's only two sides to a phone. There's consuming and producing, and you got to determine what it is that you are doing in it. And if you're just consuming tons of videos, you're not actually learning anything. You're watching cat videos and you're watching random stuff. You're wasting so much time that it's insane, And so
Well,
yeah,
that's-
my phone actually gives me a screen time report once a week. And so I take a look at that and go, oh, geez, man, I didn't know it was on that long. But, yeah, I mean, it goes quick,
Right.
you know.
It's so easy to get sucked into that. Even at my age, you know, I'll check my Facebook and I communicate with a few people, and before you know it, I'm off into la la land. I've been looking at this thing for 30 minutes, and I feel like an adolescent kid or something. You know, it's like, okay, put it down for a while. And
Yeah.
sometimes I do take a break from social media for a few days at least. You know.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I did like about the power outage. It gave me an opportunity to totally get out of everything electronic and realize how addicted I was to that stuff.
Right,
man.
and
I mean, that was
hunting
like,
at the deer leads and Nacogdoches that we used to have, you didn't get a signal unless you walked a half mile up to the top of a hill, and then maybe, right? But after the initial shock of, well, I'm not in touch with everybody, you achieve a peace like you've never seen
Yeah.
before. You
Yeah,
know,
you
It's just
definitely mellow out.
getting away from all that.
And
Yeah.
not to say that all social media is bad and all entertainment's bad,
Right.
Because especially as entrepreneurs, you know, it's hard to have that off switch because you're always thinking, well, what could I have done more today? You know, what can I do better? How can I improve the things I'm already doing? I'm gonna watch a video on how to set things up better, and just there's always something that's on the mind. And as soon as you catch yourself on Facebook, it's like, what am I doing on here? I need to shake this off. I need to get out of here, and I need to work on myself still. I still got things
Yeah.
to do, and that's what I really find hard. And you know, where I'm at in life is just like, I'm like, I should be watching a motivational video if I have time to be watching a funny video. Well, I shouldn't be watching this. And I got to really stop myself and say, no, you've done what you could today. Now enjoy a little bit, you know, unwind,
Right.
read a book. And I started getting into schedule blocking, which is, it goes based off your energy cycle throughout the day. So if you're not a morning person, you would start with your low energy consumption task first. So you would start with, okay, I'm going to start out first just by like moving, right? Or doing something. I'm going to start with prayer, something that doesn't take much energy. And then, okay, then I'm going to get up, and then I'm going to get dressed, and then I'm going to read. I'm going to do my 5-10 minutes of reading or whatever it may be, right? And then I'm going to do, write my task for the day. And all just low energy until it rolls into the next thing. Now going to work or working out, and then going to work, and then getting off, cook. And when you get to the end of the day, you can look back and you know that you've completed everything you're going to do. Because I was going through the day and I would be like, oh, I forgot to do my Duolingo. I forgot to study Spanish, or, you know, and I was just like, oh, I need to read now because I didn't read in the morning, but I didn't feel like reading at night. You know, it's more of a morning thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I'd be beating myself up mentally like, well, now you got to read. But now at the end of the night when I'm winding down, I want to just watch some videos. I'd rather watch a YouTube video, you know. I'd rather watch Hank's Think Tank, you know. I'd rather just unwind like that. And so then I'm battling in my mind like, no, go read. Well, I'm not going to read, you know. And
Right,
so,
or if you do, it's not 100%, you know, enjoyable to you, and you're not going to retain probably what you would normally.
absolutely.
So you do motivational speaking. Where do you do this at primarily?
Really just in person. So, you know, with and we can talk about the Winston House later. And I said we no longer help the young adults. Well, that's really where my heart and expertise is at, because I'm not far away from those people, and had a mentor, somebody they had told me information. It was just here and there, but actually said, hey, if you want to start meeting with me, if you want to start sitting down and let's grab in lunch, and at no charge, because I mean, obviously when you're young, you don't have any money. It's just like, but just having these conversations and someone to hold you accountable, like, hey, I'm there for you. And so a lot of mine is just in person, and people at church, people around the community know, and they're just like, hey, can you mentor my son? You know, can you take him out to eat? And, you know, and I'll just cover it, but just can you speak to him and things like that. And that's really where I do a lot more of that. And
What a great thing.
So what advice would you give somebody who, let's say you've got a guy who's in just a soul-crushing job, one of those 9-to-5 deals where it just sucks for him, maybe not built for that type of work or something, wants to do something different, doesn't really know what to do though, but would like to be self-employed. What kind of advice would you give a person like that? I mean, how would you help them to move in the right direction and find purpose, find cause?
I would say I would start with this thought, that your 9-to-5 supplies your life, but your 5 to 9 builds your wealth. And the thing is, within your 9 to 5, because everybody has the same 24 hours. I was still working a job when I had started my lawn care company, and I didn't leave that job until I had enough being made from the lawn care that I was like, I need to switch. I have to turn this into full time and continue to go with it.
Right.
And then that's when I grew it. And but to that person, it starts with simple actions. It's step by steps. It's just start with the no. What is it that I desire? What is it that I'm good at that I can do? Okay, write that. And then it's how can I make money from this? How much do I need? And I tell people this formula because I studied a lot in finances. And the Lord has spoke to me. As I'm writing out something, the Lord spoke. He said, the financial formula for success. And this is the first time I've ever heard a still voice. And I hand up. He said, the financial formula for success is bills plus cost of happiness. And I just keep going. I hear it. I'm like, all right, cool. And I'm still writing. And I hear, no, write it down. And I remember feeling like agitated. I'm like, I'm doing something. I'm like, bills plus cost of happiness. And I go back to what I'm doing. And I heard, now do it. And then I'm even more agitated at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, gosh, pull my phone out. I'm like, I already have my bills written down. So I write down my bills, put it all right there. And I'm like, all right, plus cost of happiness. And I'm like, I don't know what makes me happy. And so I'm just like, you know, okay, just trying to make up. I'm like, gym membership, car wash membership, you know, eating with the family, grilling, go in and reading in the park. And I write all this stuff down. And then I add them together. And I'm like, that's not much at all. The things that are most valuable to me essentially don't cost me anything. It's spending time with the family. It's doing this thing. It's reading in a natural environment. It's exercising. It's having a washed vehicle. It's helping other people. It's eating dinner, and it's going to my nephews and nieces' events. And I look at that, and then I hear this. Anything more than this is greed. And I was out of state, and I was gone 70% of the year at this point, and I said, I'm going home. And because I'd seen right there in mathematical formula that this right here, nobody told me what made me happy. I made all this up. I said, if I could do that, if I could go golfing every other weekend, if I could do every single thing that I just written down, I'd be happy. My definition of it. And I look at these bills, and I'm just like looking at this, and I said, if I make that a year, so then why are you chasing a $70,000 job, $100,000 job, when you can look at mathematically that $50,000 job that's close to your home, where you can spend time with your kids and go do the things that you
do
would
more
really
of the
make
happy
you happy.
stuff, right?
It is greed. And it's so when people can actually see that and know that, because they fill their life with temporary happiness. Well, if I just go to this concert, if I just go to the rodeo, and they just try to find
a little
these
better
things.
car, a little better house.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a little more debt is what that amounts to.
Yeah.
So,
Well, society and capitalism has brought us to this point. We're super consumers.
For sure.
I mean, we back in the 60s and 70s, we were just consumers. But as time's gone on, we've become super consumers. And so, you know, it doesn't take much to see something that you want. And once you get that, that's done. And your brain is always going to want.
Yeah.
So you're going to want something else and want something else.
I
and
think
want
people have
something
been
else.
programmed by all the corporations and the media pushing to get into your pocket is what it amounts to.
Absolutely.
To expand a little more and get further and further into that debt cycle, you know, where you can't really afford what you've got, but if you make a little bit of money, you can't wait to stack it up against a little more credit and have a little better car or whatever.
But what you're saying makes sense. I mean, you really can't buy happiness. You can only get happiness through attaining purpose in your life and having responsibility and you know, getting to the things that you need to get to. And a lot of times those don't cost money.
Right.
However, one of my favorite statements is you can't buy happiness, but it's so much better to cry your eyes out in a Mercedes than a bicycle.
Yeah.
I've got a sign given to me by a friend, which I immediately put on the wall. It says, you can't buy happiness, but you can buy a guitar. And that's almost the same thing. Right?
That's it. Yeah. You can't buy happiness, but you can pull up next to it in your yacht.
Right.
And to go with what you were saying was, it's a consumerism cycle. And the thing is we always misquote the quote of, you know, our society is to make the rich rich and the poor poor. That's not the case, because it does make the rich richer, but it keeps the poor just above poor. Because if they can't make any poor, then obviously people would be like,
Then they can't buy anything.
they can't buy. But if
Right.
they keep you just above it, they say job stands for just above broke.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
And so it's just you have to start with something small. And I heard something that really kicked me off recently. It was you think you're so far away. So he said, you're not as far away as you think. He said, but since you think you're so far away, that thought keeps you at that subconsciously. And so you act in accordance to such. He said, if you knew that you were one handshake away, you were one phone call away, you were one meeting away from your life changing, you would act in accordance to that. So, and it's the step-by-steps. It's the little daily things. It's not like, I'm not telling anybody to quit their job tomorrow. I'm saying this is a process. Start with just writing out what it is that you want to do
And
that you
possibly
can do.
changing some bad habits too.
And absolutely, that 1 degree of trajectory changes it by miles over a long period of time.
Exactly.
And that is the whole thing, is you have to start. And they say when building new habits, don't focus all your energy on removing the old, but on building the new. So
Right.
start with the little small things that you can do right now. I'm not telling someone to go to the gym 7 days a week. I'm saying do 5 push-ups a day and 5 sit-ups. I'm not saying quit your job. I'm saying start by writing something down. Tomorrow, add on it. Next day, expand on it. Okay, make a
Right.
phone call. Hey, man, I'm at this spot. I'm thinking about opening a business. What advice would you give? Call the people that have done it. There's nothing new under the sun. People have done the things that we seek to do. And so just getting in contact with the men and women that help us and want to see us do better,
Well, I'll tell you what, if you surround yourself by successful people, you will become like them.
Right.
And if you surround yourself with a bunch of losers, you will become like them too. And I think writing things down where you can actually see them and weigh the options is a big, simple thing to do for a lot of different things, whatever decision you're making.
Well, and the reason for that is because you're making something intangible tangible. Once you write it down, you can
Right.
see it, you can feel it, you can.
Have you ever done like, well, I've got to do this, but I don't know, I got to weigh the options, and you do the pros and cons thing?
Mm-hmm.
It's simple after that.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot easier
Yeah.
to really weigh your options. So writing things down is a good thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of the reason why new things fail for people a lot of times when they try to make lifestyle changes is because it takes 21 days to form a new habit. I mean, there's no way around that. You can't form a new habit overnight. You can, just like when you quit smoking or something like that, it literally takes 21 days for that new habit to start to kick in for you, no matter what that is. And most people would give up by about the 7th day because they don't see results. They're like, well, I still feel the same way, or I'm still leaning this way, or I backslid and did this and didn't make it one day. It takes 21 days of concerned effort to make a new habit or a new lifestyle change. And if people can realize that and mark it off on their calendar, that'll help.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, building lifestyle changes is a tough deal, but it's really good for you to do. And it also happens on average with most people about every 7 years, your lifestyle habits will naturally change, and you'll naturally start liking maybe foods that you hated before, or certain types of art that you didn't like before, or even
Except
music.
for Brussels sprouts, because those things suck no matter how old you are.
I don't care what you do with a Brussels sprout.
You could cover it in bacon and cheese. And,
Yeah. Deep fried bacon and cheese, and they'd still be horrible.
I got a free trip to Brussels, Belgium one time. I turned it down. I'm not going there. The place is going to be covered up with Brussels sprouts.
You can't even put peanut butter on a Brussels sprout, and it still would suck.
No, my dog wouldn't eat it.
No.
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 How do you get through to these young people who know everything already? And like every generation, they always know everything. How do you get them to actually let down their defenses and listen to you, where they actually soak in some of this good advice?
Asking them, actually, probably the easiest one is ask them to be on a podcast. Because then they want to say everything, right?
Right.
But then outside of it is asking them for their credentials. What have they done? What have they accomplished, right? And it's listening. I mean, you really know, you judge a man not by what he says, but what he asks. And I listen when I speak to the young adults. I listen a lot. I just listen. And I find little holes within it or whatever it may be, right? And I don't say it. I'm not like, hey, you're messing up right there. I just keep listening and let them speak on everything they're going to speak on. And then that's where the advice comes in. I say, okay, now that we've spoken, I've heard what you're saying. this is the things that I've seen, and I can see already the issues that you're having, because a lot of it's more internal. You can have a lot of head knowledge, but then it comes down to heart and your ability to apply the things. Because you are who you are when you're put in a difficult situation, when you're shaken. You know, you can be a smart person, you can be a great businessman, but then when times get tough and things are not going your way, then your true character comes out. And so that's what's really been, monumental for me on the backside. I know why. I can see now, only in retrospect, why things had to happen how they were, and why I didn't go to a place where I thought like I had vision in my mind, and as far as financially, and I know now because I wasn't prepared for that. And had I attained what I thought, I know for a fact I was not ready. Right. And so to see the humbling process and then the whole build back even better than that, and for it not to feel any type of difference to me as far as like I don't acting different, I'm not super fancy or flashy or nothing like that. It's the preparing process. And so to get young adults to open up about that is, like I said, it's just having them be transparent. Say, you don't have to impress me with the things you're trying to say. Just speak to me and let me see where you're at and where you're needing help at.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
And I think psychologically, when you scrape all the stuff off and you get down to just the cake,
right.
The cake of it is an individual's ability to assume responsibility.
That's all.
So, I mean, yeah, because every move you make towards attaining something, you've got to take on an equal amount of responsibility to do it.
Heavy as a crown.
And if you don't have the responsibility to do it, it's not going to happen.
And it's discipline.
Yeah.
Discipline as
Discipline's
core of what I
responsibility,
believe in.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
responsibility. You have to be self-accountable 100%. When no one's there to say, hey, go work out, even though you can make up 100 reasons why. And they say the best way to establish discipline is by waking up early.
Yeah.
Because no one's there to wake you up early. You're comfy. You're on a little cozy
Absolutely,
pillow.
yeah.
But you have to force your mind into getting up and saying, this is what I'm going to do regardless. And then I say, make your bed. I know y'all probably seen the video of, if you want to change the world, first make your bed.
Yeah.
Right.
That really revolutionized
Start the day
my
off
life as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With a completed task, and then you move forward. And it's those.
Yeah, it provides order for your life.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Those little daily disciplines. I say there's no such thing as a little thing, because they are all major things, and they may not be major in the grand scheme of my life's gonna fail if I don't do the dish immediately. But you not doing the dishes is the discipline of procrastination. So then you have the discipline of, I'm gonna procrastinate, because in your mind it's like, well, it's not really a big deal, I'm just gonna put it off. Then
Right.
Same thing with laundry. I'm just gonna leave the laundry in there. Well, I'm not gonna clean my car out, or I'm gonna and it just turns into all aspects. Even though it's a little thing, it's a major discipline.
Then you got 95 things that you got to catch up on in a hurry.
Right. And then you do none of them.
You can paint yourself in a corner being a procrastinator. Trust me on that one.
And the happier people that I've met in my life always had more crosses to bear than the ones that were unhappy. So the guys that assumed more responsibility and had more going on and were super busy, those seem to be the happier individuals.
I bet the sense of purpose is the reward for that.
I'm not really sure psychologically what it is, but I think it's just the fact that you eliminate the negatives from your life because you simply just don't have time for them. You've assumed enough responsibility, and you have enough key markers in your life, like getting up early and making up your bed and doing the things you need to do and you're supposed to do, to where it eliminates any possibility for negative to enter.
Right.
And I used to think that wealth was more important than happiness, but I've come to realize, being an older guy, that happiness is way more important than wealth, and wealth really doesn't matter. It's just It's just keeping score. That's really all it is.
Yeah.
So it's it just depends on what you want to, how much crap you want to have in your life.
Yeah.
Being a professional super consumer like I am, I've got a lot of stuff. But if I lost all my stuff, I'd still have me. I'd still have
your biggest
my
asset.
world, and and I'd still have my thoughts and what I do. So would I really take a loss? No.
Right.
And all that's been just keeping score, you know, and just making myself happy for a minute while I purchase another device or another item.
Yeah.
As soon as I got it, I was like, well, I'm on to the next thing now. So,
Yep.
yeah. Got a new mic. but look at this mic.
Yeah.
You know, so, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the way it always is, and I think it'll
Right.
always be that way.
Yeah.
That's the way capitalism's set up for us.
I heard a quote that said that.
It's
Said,
weird.
you've accomplished something that you said would make you happy. And I mean, that's just it right there. We've accomplished things. It's like when I get there or do that, then I'll be happy.
Yeah.
You've already knocked it down. It's like, okay, you're still back at the same spot that you were when you made that statement.
Mhm.
You know, so it's an ever ongoing process. And I've been, even at my age, at 25, in that ecclesiastic era of my life, it's like, okay, I have everything that I have is automated. So all my finances are automated.
Right.
I don't think about anything like that. And I have assets and I have stocks and I'm a full-time philanthropist. So, and I wake up, I do my daily things, I read, and I'm essentially retired at this point. And it's lonely. I'd say, and it's boring.
Sure,
You know,
yeah.
you can only read so much. You can only cut the lawn so much. You can help people and do a lot of things. But I'll fast forward for the people that are like, man, I just can't wait till I retire. Retiring gets so boring that it's unreal. And if you wait till you're 65 years old to realize that, I'm going to tell you now, that's not what you're seeking. Retirement is not, yes, you're seeking financial freedom. You're seeking to be the ability to go do things with the people you want, when you want. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's not having to work. That's not the thing. If anything, you're going to miss working. You're going to miss doing something because that's where I'm at now. It's like, okay, the first 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, cool. And then it's like, you know,
Yeah.
I need to go do something. Like, hey, you got any work? Can I go? You want me to help you rip a fence
Right.
down or something? Like anything, please.
People have a basic innate need to be busy and beneficial and purpose driven.
Right.
Whether they're going to work every day or retired and helping other people or, you know, doing something. I had a buddy at Harris County, and my Harris County buddies will remember this guy, Gene Pena.
It sounds
Guy
like
was a man.
sounds like the clink, dude. So you need to be more specific
Well, I
about.
worked for Harris County
Yeah, you didn't live in
facilities.
That's it.
The county of Harris facilities are a government entity. I was a worker bee, got into the AC shop. This
There
guy
you
was
go.
a plumber, okay, a Harris
Yeah.
County plumber. And he was probably the oldest guy in our circles on the crew. And we asked him one time, we said, why don't you retire, Gene? You know, he's well into his 60s, probably pushing 70.
Yeah.
He said, I'm not retiring. I'm not going to retire, not yet anyway, because everybody I know who retired, they were dead in a year because they didn't have anything to do. They didn't have any purpose.
Yeah, and your life shuts down.
Yeah, and you're like, well,
Yeah.
what do I do now? I'm worthless. I'm sitting here watching TV. I'm bored to death, you
Yeah.
know. So they didn't get out and do other things. Gene was funny. The first time I ever met him, I started off as a 28-year-old idiot, dispatching tools and taking calls. And he came up to get something, and he goes, he dyed his hair black. Obviously, he was too old to have black hair. He goes, "You're the new guy." And I said, "Yeah." "What's your name?" I said, "Mark." He said, "I never met a Mark worth of shit."
And he walked off.
Yeah. But he was that's the way he pulled my leg, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, Gene Pena. He quit dyeing his hair. And it went purple before it went white. It was a hilarious
Cool.
thing. It was a 70-year-old
Yeah.
punk rocker
Looked
with
like
purple
Prince.
hair, you know.
Looked like Prince.
I'm saying all that to get to this. He retired.
Yeah.
He was dead in a year, man.
Really?
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. And it was just like he said. Maybe it was a self-prophecy kind of thing.
Wow.
Went to his funeral.
Wow.
And maybe you want to cut this out and get back to your guest, but Gene Pena was a hell of a guy, man. Went to his funeral, and there is his World War II picture and his Purple Heart and his Bronze Star. Had no idea what a hero this guy was.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
but he didn't take to retirement just like he thought he might not. So,
Yeah, a lot of people don't.
you know, you got to have a
Yeah.
purpose. That's the point of all
Have
that.
to have
Yeah.
a purpose. You have to have a purpose-driven life. 100%. Like I said, I'm coming to that, realizing it now. Yeah, you can go golf and there's temporary funds, but if you don't have a daily purpose, because you can only make up things to do for so long. You can only be like, oh, I'm going to go paint the well shed. I'm going to go out here and do this. And until all those things are accomplished, and then you're like, okay, now what? And people always say, well, go volunteer. My whole life's volunteering. That's all I do. You know, I'm full-time in that. And so, and yes, even that becomes into a spot where it's just the same thing. Because then once you get that ball rolling, then it's a reoccurring situation.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know, and I know all joy comes from above. Absolutely. You know, I read every single day, and it's just like that internal battle of, okay, left and right, you know, up and down, good or bad, you know, just those kind of things. And so it's, I think of it like a thorn in the side. You're always going to have that thorn in the side of like the thing that keeps the, you know, that's what I call it, like kind of keeps you wanting to keep going and pursuing something. Because if not, it'd be easy just to lay in bed and say there's no reason to get up. Like I really used to read Ecclesiastics, you know, it's King Solomon at the end of his life. He had everything, was the richest and wisest ruler in the biblical times. And it seems very, very dark. He said it's all, you know, futile. It's all smoke. It's all just a mist in the wind. Everything you're doing is for nothing. You acquire all these things just to give it to somebody that didn't work for it. And you're like, oh, man. And it's just like, what's the point of it then? And I used to read that and think it was so saddening. And then I realized, like, you know, it's kind of encouragement, you know? It's like there's nothing new. He said the sun rises and the sun sets. The tides come in, they go out. It's every day is the exact same day. You know, we call it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but it's the same exact day. And I equate it to, I ask people, like, you ever seen Groundhog Day? That's literally what it is. Like, we're in a lifetime, like, Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Right.
And until we make those decisions, nothing's going to change. That's why I said, like, the starting the simple
Yeah,
habit.
we invented the incremental passage of time. It doesn't actually exist.
Yeah.
A lot of people haven't figured
It's
that
just
out.
a daily cycle.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
before your time, but if you listen to the Pink Floyd song called Time,
Okay.
it is amazing. I mean, put some headphones on and just kick back and listen to the lyrics. That every day you're young and you got all your whole life ahead of you, and you kind of late to sort of getting your stuff together in life, but that's okay. You're catching up, and then suddenly you're old, and the sun's catching up to you from the other side of the earth. Pink Floyd's Time. It's an amazing deep song.
Okay. Yeah. My dad had always told me, he said, he made me really cynical about time and death from a young age. Well, my biological father, he always said, just keep waking up, big boy. That's what he said, you know.
Yeah, right.
And he said, you being the youngest, this is the advice that he had got from his older brother. He said, you're the youngest. He said, if life goes correct, you'll bury every single one of us. And so it's just like these things that never end are an ongoing thing. And so
Right.
it's just, there's nothing new. Just keep waking up. Keep
Yep.
waking up. And I remember couldn't wait to be 18 years old. And now at 25, I'm like, it doesn't seem long ago. I was like 16, like, oh, I
yeah.
can't wait to be 20. I mean, I can't wait to be 18.
It goes
I'm
by
like,
in a flash. And it was just a
like-
couple of weeks ago, me and Hank were in high school.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it
not
was
long
just
ago.
not long ago at all, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it went by really, really fast.
and I see it now just in this little small span. I mean, it really takes having your eyes open to that, though, to truly see it. Because most people don't see it until it's in retrospect.
Right.
You know,
That's the typical way it goes, yeah.
I think what really helped me is when my mom started her ministry, Heaven's Army, in 2008 or 2009, started like a food pantry and outreach ministry and in a small little strip center. And people would come in there and obviously in a hardship, needing food. And so they would come in there and they would just open up about their life. And for me to be that young and to see people come in there and everyday typical clothes and nice vehicle and say they lived in this neighborhood and all these things, and you're just like, okay, normal person. And then I know where there's like, my kids are on drugs, me and my husband are finna get a divorce, we're about to lose the house. And you're like, whoa, how'd this happen, And it just not just one family, it's just 2, 3, 4, 5 compounded over months and years, and you're just seeing it like on a regular basis. Like, this is a common issue. Finances is a common issue. Like, this whole debt trap that my father was telling me about is a real issue. People get into it and don't realize until they're 40, 50 years old. And now are like, hey, we're finna get a divorce. We messed up. We started all this when we were young, and now we're at this
now you
spot.
wanna
Now
start all
we hate our
over.
life.
So you think a lot of it boils down to finance at the end?
For sure. You look at majority of why divorces happen. The main cause is what? Finances.
Exactly.
And it comes down to stewardship. I talked to my pastor, and he's a financial advisor, and he said, Kolton, I have people that come in here and make $400,000 a year and are on the brink of financial ruin, and they're asking me for advice.
Yeah.
He said, and I have individuals in this church, he said, that make $80,000 a year, and they're the happiest family you'd ever meet. He said, Colton, it is not about the amount you make. It's about the amount and how you steward the amount that you make.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and even tithing absolutely is a biblical principle, 10%. But I believe why they instilled the 10% was to open your mind to the fact that utilizing percentages to manage your finances is the key. It's absolutely the key.
Hard numbers.
Yeah, because there's no way of getting away from it. Even back then, 10% is whatever you had is still the same 10% of whatever you have today.
Exactly right.
You know?
Yeah.
And there's broke tithers. God doesn't say, if you give me 10%, I'll just slam you full of money. There's people that are been tithing faithfully for many of years and aren't well off. It's what you do and how you manage the other 90%, you know? And so when you can break your finances down into quadrants of, okay, this is how much I'm going to allocate to this, and it's just as soon as the check comes in, it's this, in percentages. And not just, okay, this is going to go to bills, this is going to go to this bill, this is going to go to this bill, but you say, okay, my bills of my total income is 40% or 42%. There's no roundabouts in finances. That's why I tell people. It's not like, oh, I spent 18, 21, $20. No, because it's that discipline. It's the consistency. If you do that over and over and over again, now I say, if you can't manage 100, you can't manage 1,000. You can't manage 1,000, you can't manage 10,000. You can't manage 10,000, you can't manage 100,000.
Got little problems or big problems. It's all going to be the same thing.
There's no such thing as a little thing. And so it's all the way down to that. But yes, breaking it down into percentages is absolutely vital. And most people don't. Like I said, they just pay bills and spend. And another advice that I would tell anybody that's bad with financial management is you cannot have one bank account. You can't have one card, because in business it's called commingling of funds. When you spend personal money with business money,
Right.
commingling of funds, illegal. I think you should take that same mindset and apply it to your personal finances and say, hey, this is my bills account. Everything's automated from this. Okay, I get my direct deposit to it, and my bills are automatically paid. My car, my phone, and I know if I work X amount of hours, if I work my job, I know the money's coming to this account, and I know it's going to be enough to cover my bills. So once that, and then the overflow, okay, I'm going to pull this into a different account. It's called your guilt-free account. Because when you don't see, oh, I have 15 or I have 20,000 right there in this bank account, I can go to the rodeo, that's $600, $700. Who cares? I have this much money in it. But when you see this over here in the guilt-free account, and you say, oh, $700 to go to the rodeo, but in my guilt-free I only have $1,800, that doesn't seem like a good purchase anymore, right? It puts it in retrospect of what you're doing, because you're no longer commingling this money. It doesn't look a big pile that you got anymore. And so I tell people immediately, opening up a guilt-free account, and no matter what you do with the money, it's guilt-free. No one can tell you, hey, because it's allocated for that.
Yeah.
If I want
You've made a savings that you can dip into. Plus, you probably got another savings or a 401k.
Yes, there's got to be
totally
minimum 3
separate.
accounts. Yes, there's 3 accounts.
Right.
The guilt-free, and then your savings or investment account.
Yeah.
I tell people, don't let your money sit idle. You know, back then you had to put it into the stock market. You had to give it to a broker and do that the whole thing. That's you now. You can actively do your own money. And if it's not like, I don't want to do stocks. I don't want to sit it in the bank. I'm a mechanic, you know, I want to flip vehicles. Well, hey, start doing that with that investment money. When that 20% or whatever percentage it is that you have for your savings gets to enough where you're like, oh, I'm going to buy this $2,000 vehicle, and then I'm going to put $2,000 into it, and then I'm going to sell it for $5,000. Now I've made $1,000 off this vehicle. Now turn that $5,000, do it again. And people always think it's like one project that's going to put you over the top, or one situation going to happen. No, it's the compounding effect of taking that, making the $1,000 profit, making a $1,200 profit, making a $3,200 profit, and keep going over and over with it, and not instantly scraping that profit off and saying, "Oh, I made $3,200. Let's go to the Bahamas, baby." You know, and it just keeps going and going and going. And so, separate your finances. Don't have one bank account. Please do not have one bank account.
Good advice.
There you go. Let's talk about the men's center a little bit. We had mentioned that out in the green room. So what's the deal with the men's center? I'm familiar a little bit with your mom's women's facility, but I'm not really all that familiar with it as much as I'd like to be, I guess.
Right. So Heaven's Army Home of Amazing Grace takes women straight out of addiction, abusive relationships, sex trafficking, homelessness, anything where you're at a spot of just like, I've messed up in life, you know, even if you're just at that spot.
This is a permanent place to live, right?
This is a 1-year residence.
Right.
So it's an intense, she calls it a spiritual boot camp. She said it's not.
How many people live there?
Currently, I believe there's 4.
Really? Well, okay.
Because the turnover rate, people come in there and think, oh yeah, I can do that, and they come in there and realize that, like, it's not a joke.
Yeah.
And so the men's home, we had seen a issue with men graduating, say, recovery houses and going through a year-long program, but then they come out of it and they don't have financial structure, they don't have their legal documents, they don't have a job, they don't have anything essentially.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, well, now go back into the world. You're a changed guy and you're drug free, but now you don't have anywhere to go. And so we wanted to fill that transition phase by opening the Winston House, which we take men in that have been through a 1-year program, a minimum, and that are vouched for by the leaders and say, hey, this man, he's really changed his life. I've seen it. And where they come into us, and so immediately I would start with, what's your purpose? What is your passion? And if you can know those 2 things, then you can really create, like, it goes down to the financial formula for success, right? And I had them start with that, and I had them answer all the questions. I'm just posing questions. And so when we get to the end of it, it's like, okay, this is your definition, right? If you say you can get an apartment and you can do this and I can go to these events and I can see my family and rekindle this and have a job, that's my definition. Okay, then now we have it on a real time frame, and we don't get away. Our whole thing's built on faith.
Mm-hmm.
It's all faith. And
Okay.
so we're still attending weekly churches. We have mentors that come in there, so actual like counselors, everything that it takes to get to that next level. Where, like I said, we're that window of transition for these men back into society. And I tell them it's not a 1-year program. It's how quick can you take this information, apply it, and move.
Mm-hmm.
We don't make money off you being here. If you want to transition back into society, this is 100% dependent upon you. Now, we help them with their finances. I help them, like, okay, as their financial advisor, they start making a little money. Of course, everybody feels like, well, I'll go on, I'll get out of here.
Yeah.
And I say, okay, I hear you. Well, let's slow down for a second. Let's look at exactly what you've made, how much you have. Let's play this scenario out. It's not checkers, this is chess. Let's see, what are you going to do with that? I understand you have $3,000 now, and you feel like you're well off.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and see. Or I know you have a vehicle now and you have a little bit of money and you feel like, I'm just going to burn off. Now what's the next thing? What happens from there? You go and get a hotel. You maybe go back to a family member's house and you think it's all going to be copacetic. How long does that last? How long before the welcome's worn out? You don't have enough to put down for an apartment or a house. You're not in a position to do so. And, and it's seeing those things, because when people come out of, especially addiction, it's so tough because they may be in addiction for 20, 30, 40 years. And yes, they did 1 year of recovery, but you look at that as a ratio, you're 40 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a lot of years of bad habits and decisions, and to 1 year being clean. And yes, you like to, I can see that you're a changed person. I can see that you can speak properly. I can see these things, but just knowing in the back of my mind that you still have 40 years of training or 20 years of training in the wrong direction.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so that's what I had to really keep on the forefront. And
Okay.
so
How many men are at the facility?
currently right now we just had one transition. It's like our first success.
Mhm.
We started in January with this, not knowing exactly what it all was going to look like. And that was part of when I came home. I was like, Mom, I
Great.
feel like the Lord's telling me to come home. And she said, I was like, I don't understand why. I said, I do not understand why. I said, it's just, she said, son, the only thing I can tell you is be obedient. And so I came home not knowing at all. And she said, we're opening a men's home. Would you like to be the leader of it? And I'm like, I'll pray about it. I received a yes. And they said, do you want to live in New Caney at the house? Or would you like to be full-time in the ministry, and live in the transition home with the men? And of course, in my mind, I'm thinking, I want to stay in New Caney. My gym's right there. Got my motorcycle. I'm just, live my normal life and go help these men in the meantime. Prayed about it immediately. Said, there's no such thing as halfway in ministry. So I'm like, yes, I'll move into the house with these men, and not really knowing, because, imagine having your sister or your brother and then your in-laws come visit, and it turned into 3 months, 4 months, 5 months,
Right.
6, 7, 8, 9 months. You're like, woo!
Yeah.
So that's how it is living with these individuals. It's a blessing. At the same time, it's something that you have to be called to do, and something that you have to
Right.
really be prepared for.
Well, the drill sergeant lives in the barracks too, so you're doing it right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. And so right now, currently, we are at 0 in the house. That's just been for the past week, right before the storm, actually, was when that transition happened. And then the storm happened, and I call it the perfect storm because I didn't realize how much it was even wearing on me. And of course, as being a business owner or being a ministry, you obviously, like, the whole purpose of this is to have people in here and transition their life, you know? And so the first thought is, like, I got to get more guys in here, get more guys in here. And I was praying on it, and it's just like, slow down, have peace, and knowing that this is part of the process as well. This is time to recover, to recoup, re-strategize, to get realigned. And so now I'm enjoying this little bit of downtime. And I always say downtime is productive time. So I'm not laying out in the house and walking around.
Right.
It's like, okay, what can I do now that I've seen 7 months of consistency of men coming through here? And what can I do to change, and what can we implement to make this more effective before the next ones come?
Right.
Because
You
it's
always got to
inevitable, they're coming.
reevaluate and see what's working, what's not.
Right.
Yeah. Well, good luck. It sounds like, what's the official name?
Heaven's Army is the ministry. We're the Winston House.
Okay. Do y'all have a website?
We do have a website.
And what is it?
heavensarmy-tx.org.
Okay.
And we're actually working on getting a new one made. So
Okay. Facebook page and all that?
Facebook page, Heaven's Army, and mine is Kolton Purvis. You reach out to me on Facebook for sure is the easiest way. So
Okay.
it's KOLTON
KOLTON.
PRPARHAM.
What about a phone number? Can you leave a phone number for people?
Yeah, absolutely. 832-928-6919.
Okay. And you do speaking engagements, and you also do financial consulting and things like that, right?
Correct.
Fantastic. Well, Colton, I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Yeah. No, Hank, it
So,
is.
yeah, good conversation. I think you're a fine young man. I've known your mom for a while. I served with her on the Cleveland Chamber of Commerce board years ago
Okay.
when she was on the board, only for one term, but I was there. And, yeah, I think you guys do good work, so
Yeah,
we
man, thank you.
appreciate that.
Yeah. Keep up the good fight, man.
Got anything else, Mark Hogan?
No, thank you again, Colton, for coming on, and check him out. Send somebody his way if you think they need it. Write things down, have a purpose, take care of your finances and get organized. And Gene Pena, miss you, brother.
Um,
There you go. All right. For Mark Hogan, I'm Hank Vatt. This is Hank's Think Tank, and we'll be gone to the next one.
I mean,